Sit back and enjoy 2 hours of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started.
Tonight, we will embark on a peaceful journey beneath the waves, exploring astonishing facts about the ocean. A vast and mysterious world that covers more than 70% of our planet. From ancient shipwrecks resting on the seafloor to creatures that glow in the dark and underwater mountain ranges taller than those on land, the ocean is home to wonders that are as beautiful as they are astonishing. So lean back, breathe slowly, and let your mind drift like the gentle tides as we uncover the secrets of Earth's largest habitat. The world's largest mountain ranges are underwater. Beneath the waves lies an underwater world shaped by vast mountain ranges that stretch far beyond any found on land. The mid-ocean ridges, for example, form a continuous chain that circles the globe and extends for more than 40,000 miles, making them much longer than the Andes or the Himalayas. These underwater mountains are places of intense tectonic activity where new oceanic crust forms as tectonic plates move apart. They influence ocean currents, marine habitats, and even global geology, serving as a reminder of the dynamic forces that shape our planet. Some jellyfish can live forever through biological immortality. Unlike most creatures that age and eventually die, certain species of jellyfish can avoid death altogether through a remarkable process known as biological immortality. The most famous example is Turritopsis dohrnii, often called the immortal jellyfish. When faced with injury, stress, or aging, this jellyfish can transform its cells by returning them to an earlier stage of development, essentially restarting its life cycle. This process, called transdifferentiation, allows the jellyfish to revert to a juvenile polyp stage before growing into an adult once again. Because this cycle can be repeated indefinitely, these jellyfish have the potential to live forever unless they die from disease or predators. This ability challenges our understanding of aging and has fascinated scientists studying the mechanisms of cellular regeneration. Some fish can change sex as they mature. In many fish species, individuals have the remarkable ability to change sex during their lifetime. This phenomenon, known as sequential hermaphroditism, allows a fish to change from male to female or vice versa depending on environmental or social cues. For example, clownfish are born male and can become female if the dominant female in their group dies. In contrast, some wrasses begin life as females and later transform into males. This ability ensures reproductive flexibility and helps maintain population balance. It also highlights the incredible adaptability of marine life to changing environmental conditions. There are more historical artifacts underwater than on land. When you think about history, ancient ruins and artifacts on the Earth's surface probably come to mind. However, the ocean holds far more historical treasures beneath its surface than all the land combined. Over thousands of years, countless ships have sunk, harbors have been submerged, and entire cities have been lost due to rising sea levels. These underwater sites preserve objects in extraordinary condition because low oxygen levels and stable temperatures slow decomposition. Examples include sunken Roman merchant ships and the submerged city of Pavlopetri in Greece, one of the oldest known underwater cities. Modern technology, such as sonar mapping and underwater robots, now helps archaeologists uncover these hidden time capsules, revealing vast chapters of human history that have remained concealed beneath the waves for centuries. Some seaweed can grow more than 3 feet per day. Certain species of seaweed, especially giant kelp, can grow at an astonishing rate, sometimes exceeding more than 3 feet in a single day. This rapid growth allows kelp forests to develop into dense underwater habitats that support thousands of marine species. The towering kelp stalks provide shelter, food, and breeding grounds for fish, invertebrates, and marine mammals. These forests also play a significant role in absorbing carbon, making them important contributors to the health of marine ecosystems and climate regulation. The ocean contains more gold than all the gold mines on Earth's surface. It may sound unbelievable, but the world's oceans contain about 20 million tons of dissolved gold, which is more than all the gold ever mined on land. Throughout history, this gold has been distributed in an extremely diluted form throughout seawater, only a few parts per trillion, making it invisible to the naked eye and impossible to extract economically with current technology. Gold enters the oceans through rivers, underwater volcanic activity, and hydrothermal vents, continuously circulating through marine systems. Occasionally, gold becomes concentrated near certain underwater mineral deposits, sparking interest in future mining possibilities as technology advances. For now, this vast sea of gold remains a silent and hidden treasure, reminding us of the ocean's immense wealth, most of which remains untapped. Deepest part of the ocean is deeper than the height of Mount Everest. The Mariana Trench, located in the western Pacific Ocean, is the deepest known point in the world's oceans. Its lowest area, known as Challenger Deep, reaches nearly 7 miles below sea level. To put that into perspective, Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, rises about 5.5 miles above sea level. If Mount Everest were placed at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, its summit would still be more than half a mile underwater. The extreme pressure at this depth exceeds 1,000 times the pressure at the surface, creating a hostile environment where only specially adapted organisms can survive. Despite its isolation and harsh conditions, expeditions have discovered unique forms of life thriving in this abyssal realm, challenging what we know about life's resilience. More than 80% of the ocean has still not been explored. Although the ocean covers more than 70% of Earth's surface, scientists estimate that more than 80% of it remains unexplored and unmapped. This vast unexplored territory includes deep trenches, underwater mountain ranges, and abyssal plains that remain mysterious and poorly understood. Advances in technology, such as remotely operated vehicles, autonomous underwater drones, and sophisticated sonar mapping, have begun to reveal the ocean's secrets, regularly uncovering new species and geological features. The ocean remains one of the planet's last great frontiers, holding countless unknowns that could redefine our understanding of biology, geology, and climate in the years ahead. Sea otters use rocks as tools to open shellfish. Sea otters are among the few animals that use tools in the wild, and their favorite tool is a simple rock. These clever mammals dive to the seafloor to collect shellfish such as clams, sea urchins, and mussels. To crack these tough shells, they either carry a rock with them or use a rock on the ocean floor as an anvil. By striking or smashing their prey against the rock, sea otters can reach the nutritious meat inside. Using this tool requires skill and learning, which is often passed from mother to pup, demonstrating remarkable intelligence and culture in these marine mammals. There are more species in the ocean than on land. The ocean is Earth's most biologically diverse habitat, and scientists estimate that it is home to millions more species than those found on land. From microscopic plankton to giant whales, the ocean's biodiversity spans countless ecosystems, including coral reefs, kelp forests, deep-sea hydrothermal vents, and the edges of the polar ice. Many marine species remain undiscovered, especially in the deep sea and remote regions, making the ocean a vast treasure trove of life that is still largely unexplored. This richness supports complex food webs and plays a crucial role in maintaining the planet's ecological balance. The ocean's coral reefs are some of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. Coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, yet they are home to about 25% of all marine species, earning them the nickname the rainforests of the sea. These vibrant ecosystems are built by tiny coral polyps that create calcium carbonate skeletons, forming complex structures that provide food, shelter, and breeding grounds for countless fish, invertebrates, and algae. Coral reefs are essential for maintaining marine biodiversity and protecting coastlines from erosion and storms. However, they are highly sensitive to environmental stressors such as rising temperatures and ocean acidification, making their conservation a global priority. Underwater volcanoes create new land and influence the ocean's chemistry. The seafloor is dotted with thousands of underwater volcanoes, many of which are located along tectonic plate boundaries. These submarine volcanoes erupt continuously, releasing molten lava that cools rapidly to form new oceanic crust. Over time, these eruptions build underwater mountains and islands, reshaping the ocean landscape. In addition to creating new land, volcanic activity releases minerals and gases into the water, influencing the ocean's chemistry and supporting unique ecosystems. Hydrothermal vents near these volcanoes are home to extraordinary forms of life that depend on chemicals from deep within the Earth rather than sunlight, revealing a hidden world of life thriving under extreme conditions. The ocean's thermohaline circulation acts as a global conveyor belt. Thermohaline circulation is a vast, slow-moving system of ocean currents driven by differences in water temperature and salinity. Warm, salty surface water flows from the tropics toward the poles, where it cools, becomes denser, and sinks into the deep ocean. This cold water then travels along the seafloor back toward the equator in a global loop, often called the conveyor belt. This circulation helps distribute heat and nutrients around the planet, playing a vital role in regulating the climate and supporting marine ecosystems. Changes or disruptions to this system could have significant impacts on the global climate and the health of the oceans. Some deep-sea creatures can produce their own light. In the dark depths of the ocean, where sunlight never reaches, many creatures have evolved the ability to produce their own light through a process called bioluminescence. This natural glow is created by chemical reactions inside the organism's bodies and serves several purposes, such as attracting prey, communicating, or providing camouflage. For example, the anglerfish uses a glowing lure to attract unsuspecting prey, while certain squid and jellyfish use light to confuse predators. Bioluminescence is widespread in the deep sea and is one of the ocean's most fascinating adaptations to extreme darkness. The ocean is home to animals larger than the dinosaurs. The blue whale is the largest animal known to have ever lived on Earth. These gentle giants can grow up to about 98 feet long and weigh as much as 200 tons, roughly the same as the weight of 33 elephants. Despite their enormous size, blue whales feed almost exclusively on tiny shrimp-like creatures called krill, consuming up to 4 tons each day during feeding season. Their massive hearts are about the size of a small car, and their songs can be heard across great distances underwater. Blue whales are a majestic reminder of the ocean's vastness and the extraordinary scale of the life it supports. The ocean's salinity varies from one region to another. Ocean water is not equally salty everywhere. Salinity, the concentration of dissolved salts, changes depending on location, temperature, evaporation, and freshwater input. For example, the Red Sea is one of the saltiest bodies of water because of its high evaporation rates and very little rainfall, while the Baltic Sea has lower salinity because it receives large amounts of fresh water from rivers. These differences in salinity affect water, density, ocean currents, and the distribution of marine life. Salinity also plays a crucial role in regulating ocean circulation and weather patterns around the world. Some coral reefs are more than 10,000 years old. Coral reefs are among the oldest living structures on Earth, and some reefs have been growing continuously for more than 10,000 years. These ancient reefs have survived massive changes in sea level, climate, and ocean chemistry. They form the backbone of vibrant ecosystems that are home to 1/4 of all marine species. The longevity and complexity of these reefs make them essential for biodiversity, fisheries, and coastal protection. However, modern threats such as warming waters and pollution put these ancient ecosystems at serious risk, highlighting the importance of conservation efforts. The ocean is home to the largest living structure on Earth. The Great Barrier Reef, stretching for more than 1,400 miles off the coast of Australia, is the largest living structure on the planet. Built by billions of tiny coral polyps over thousands of years, this reef system supports an astonishing variety of life, including thousands of species of fish, corals, and marine mammals. Its enormous size is so impressive that it can be seen from space. The reef not only provides critical habitat for marine life, but also protects coastlines from erosion and supports tourism and fisheries. Despite its importance, the reef faces serious threats from climate change, coral bleaching, and pollution, making its protection a global priority. Deep sea is Earth's largest habitat by volume. While the ocean's surface covers most of the Earth, the deep ocean below about 656 feet makes up the planet's largest habitat by volume. It spans more than half of the Earth's surface and contains more than 90% of the ocean's water. This dark, cold, high-pressure environment is home to countless unique creatures adapted to extreme conditions. Despite its vastness, the deep sea remains one of the least explored places on Earth, with many species still unknown to science. Understanding this habitat is essential to discovering the full diversity of life on our planet. Ocean dead zones are areas with extremely low oxygen levels. Dead zones are regions of the ocean where oxygen levels have dropped so low that most marine life cannot survive. These hypoxic areas are usually caused by nutrient pollution from rivers and agricultural runoff, which fuels massive algae blooms. When the algae die and decompose, they deplete the oxygen in the water, creating inhospitable conditions. Dead zones can devastate local fisheries and disrupt ecosystems. They have been increasing in both number and size around the world, posing a significant challenge to ocean health and to the human communities that depend on fishing. Hydrothermal vents support unique ecosystems powered by chemicals instead of sunlight. Hydrothermal vents are underwater geysers found near volcanic activity on the ocean floor. These vents release superheated, mineral-rich water that supports extraordinary ecosystems without any sunlight. Instead of photosynthesis, organisms living near the vents rely on chemosynthesis, in which bacteria convert chemicals such as hydrogen sulfide into energy. These bacteria form the base of the food chain, supporting tube worms, giant clams, and unusual fish adapted to these harsh environments. Hydrothermal vent ecosystems challenge traditional ideas about the conditions necessary for life. The sperm whale has the largest brain of any animal. Among all animals, the sperm whale has the largest brain by mass, weighing about 15 pounds. This massive brain supports complex behaviors such as deep diving, sophisticated vocal communication, and intricate social structures. Sperm whales can dive more than 1¼ miles deep to hunt squid, using echolocation to navigate and locate prey in the dark depths of the ocean. Their intelligence and complex societies make them fascinating subjects for studying marine mammal cognition and the evolution of large brains. Ocean waves can travel thousands of miles across the sea without losing their energy. Ocean waves created by wind blowing across the water's surface can travel vast distances, sometimes thousands of miles, without losing much of their energy. These waves carry the force of storms far from their origin, reaching distant coastlines and shaping shorelines. Swells generated by Pacific storms can be felt as far away as Hawaii and the California coast, demonstrating the incredible reach of ocean energy. This long-distance wave travel influences maritime navigation, surfing conditions, and even the distribution of nutrients in coastal waters. The ocean absorbs about 30% of the carbon dioxide produced by humans. The ocean acts as a major carbon sink by absorbing approximately 30% of the carbon dioxide released by human activities, such as burning fossil fuels. This absorption helps slow global warming, but it also causes chemical changes in seawater through a process called ocean acidification. Acidification can harm marine life, particularly organisms that build shells or skeletons from calcium carbonate, such as corals and shellfish. Scientists are studying how the continued absorption of carbon affects ocean ecosystems and what it means for the planet's climate future. The ocean holds nearly 20 times more carbon than the atmosphere. The ocean stores an astonishing amount of carbon, approximately 20 times more than is found in Earth's atmosphere. This vast reservoir plays a critical role in regulating the global climate. Marine plants such as phytoplankton absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis. When these organisms die, their carbon-rich bodies sink to the seafloor, trapping carbon for centuries or even longer. This storage mechanism helps balance carbon levels, but it is also affected by environmental changes that can impact ocean health and climate regulation. The ocean's phytoplankton population experiences seasonal blooms visible from space. Phytoplankton populations in the ocean undergo dramatic seasonal blooms that are so extensive they can be seen from outer space. These tiny marine plants multiply rapidly when conditions such as sunlight and nutrient availability are optimal. The blooms fuel the marine food web, supporting fish, whales, and other marine life. However, some blooms can become harmful, producing toxins that affect marine animals and humans. Satellites monitor these patterns to track ocean health and changes in ecosystems on a global scale. Mangrove forests protect coastlines and are essential carbon sinks. Mangrove forests grow along tropical coastlines and provide critical protection against erosion, storm surges, and rising sea levels. Their complex root systems stabilize sediment and reduce the impact of waves during storms. Mangroves also act as powerful carbon sinks, storing large amounts of carbon in their wood and soil, often much more than land forests per unit of area. These ecosystems support rich biodiversity, including fish nurseries and bird habitats, making them essential for coastal health and climate change mitigation. Deep ocean trenches are some of the least explored places on Earth. Deep ocean trenches, such as the Mariana Trench and the Tonga Trench, represent some of the most mysterious and least explored environments on Earth. These narrow, deep valleys descend thousands of feet below the surface and remain largely inaccessible because of their extreme pressure and darkness. Despite the harsh conditions, scientists have discovered unique creatures adapted to this environment. Exploring these trenches helps us understand the limits of life and Earth's geology, but much remains unknown about these underwater abysses. Blob is a gigantic mass of warmer water that affects weather patterns in the Pacific Ocean. The blob is an enormous area of unusually warm water that appeared in the Pacific Ocean in recent years. This warm patch stretches for hundreds of miles and can disrupt marine ecosystems by changing currents and affecting the behavior of marine life. It has been linked to unusual weather patterns along the west coast of North America, including droughts and changes in fish migration. The blob highlights how variations in ocean temperature can have far-reaching effects on climate and ecosystems. The ocean can generate energy through the power of tides and waves. The ocean is a vast source of renewable energy, and tides and waves offer promising ways to generate electricity. Tidal energy harnesses the predictable rise and fall of ocean tides caused by the moon's gravity, using underwater turbines to convert this movement into power. Wave energy captures the rising and falling motion of the sea's surface to operate generators. These technologies have the potential to provide clean energy to coastal communities while reducing dependence on fossil fuels, although challenges remain in expanding production and managing environmental impacts. Bioluminescent algae cause the phenomenon known as sea sparkles. Sea sparkles are a magical phenomenon caused by bioluminescent algae, tiny marine organisms that emit light when disturbed. At night, waves or movement in the water can cause these algae to glow with a soft blue-green light, creating dazzling effects along coastlines. This natural light show not only captivates observers but also serves ecological purposes, such as deterring predators or attracting mates. Sea sparkles can be seen in coastal waters around the world, offering a glimpse into the ocean's glowing life. Ocean microplastics are widespread and affect marine life at every level. Microplastics, tiny plastic particles less than about 1/5 of an inch in size, are now found throughout the ocean, from surface waters to deep-sea sediments. These particles come from sources such as fragmented plastic waste, synthetic fibers from clothing, and personal care products. Microplastics can be ingested by marine animals of every size, from plankton to whales, causing physical harm and introducing toxins into food webs. The widespread presence of microplastics represents a growing threat to ocean health and the safety of fish and shellfish consumed by humans. The ocean produces more than half of the world's oxygen. Although forests are often credited with producing oxygen, the ocean actually generates more than half of the oxygen we breathe. This vital role is carried out mainly by microscopic plants called phytoplankton. These tiny organisms use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide into oxygen through photosynthesis. Despite their small size, phytoplankton are incredibly abundant, forming the foundation of the marine food web and supporting life on Earth. Without their constant production of oxygen, the planet's atmosphere and ecosystems would be very different. Ocean currents regulate the global climate. Ocean currents act like massive conveyor belts, moving heat and nutrients through the world's seas. These currents help balance the climate by carrying warm water from the equator toward the poles and cold water back toward the tropics. For example, the Gulf Stream carries warm water from the Caribbean across the Atlantic toward Western Europe, keeping its climate milder than that of other regions at similar latitudes. Changes in these currents can influence weather patterns around the world, sometimes causing extreme events such as droughts or cold waves. The ocean has its own weather systems, including underwater tornadoes called vortices. Like the atmosphere, the ocean experiences dynamic weather systems beneath its surface. One fascinating phenomenon is underwater tornadoes called vortices. These rotating masses of water form when currents collide or flow around obstacles, creating powerful spinning columns of water that can extend for miles. Vortices influence marine life by mixing nutrients, redistributing heat, and shaping habitats. They play a significant role in ocean circulation and the distribution of organisms, making the underwater world as lively and complex as the sky. The ocean's abyssal plains are among the flattest places on Earth. Far beneath the waves, the ocean floor contains vast flat regions known as abyssal plains. These areas can extend across thousands of square miles and are among the flattest surfaces on the planet. Formed by the gradual settling of fine sediments over millions of years, abyssal plains lie at depths between about 9,800 feet and 19,700 feet. Despite the darkness and extreme pressure, these plains support diverse communities of animals adapted to life in this remote environment. Abyssal plains play a fundamental role in Earth's geology and ocean ecosystems. Ocean ice sheets affect global sea levels and ocean currents. The massive ice sheets covering parts of Antarctica and Greenland contain enough frozen water to significantly influence global sea levels. When these ice sheets melt or grow, they cause sea levels to rise or fall, affecting coastal regions around the world. In addition, fresh water from melting ice can affect ocean currents by changing the salinity and density of seawater. These changes can alter climate systems, marine ecosystems, and weather patterns, highlighting the connection between polar ice and ocean health. Some sharks can detect electric fields produced by other animals. Certain shark species have the remarkable ability to sense the weak electric fields generated by the muscle movements of other animals. This sense, called electroreception, allows sharks to locate prey hidden beneath the sand or in murky water, even when visibility is poor. Special organs called the ampullae of Lorenzini detect these tiny electrical signals, giving sharks an advantage when hunting. This ability makes sharks some of the ocean's most efficient predators and demonstrates how animals have developed specialized senses to survive. The ocean's mesopelagic zone is known as the twilight zone. Because of the limited light, the ocean's mesopelagic zone lies between about 656 feet and 3,281 feet deep and is often called the twilight zone. The light here is extremely faint, not enough for photosynthesis but sufficient to create dim and mysterious illumination. Many creatures in this zone have large eyes adapted to low light conditions, and some produce their own light through bioluminescence to communicate, hunt, or camouflage themselves. This zone serves as an important transition between the sunlit surface and the dark, deep sea, supporting unique ecosystems adapted to limited light. Coral spawning often occurs simultaneously across entire reefs once a year. Many coral species coordinate a spectacular event called coral spawning. During this time, corals release their eggs and sperm into the water simultaneously, often synchronized by lunar cycles and water temperature. This mass spawning increases the chances of successful fertilization and creates a vibrant cloud of reproductive material visible from boats or satellites. This natural event is essential for coral reproduction and reef regeneration, ensuring the survival of these diverse and fragile ecosystems. The ocean's kelp forests provide habitat for thousands of species. Kelp forests are dense underwater areas filled with large seaweeds called kelp. These forests create complex three-dimensional habitats that provide shelter, food, and breeding grounds for thousands of marine species, ranging from tiny invertebrates to large fish and marine mammals. Kelp forests also help protect coastlines by reducing wave energy. They grow rapidly in cold, nutrient-rich waters and play an important role in capturing carbon, making them vital both ecologically and environmentally. Some squid can use jet propulsion to escape predators at high speeds. Certain squid species have developed an effective escape mechanism called jet propulsion. By rapidly drawing water into their mantle cavity and forcefully expelling it through a siphon, squid can shoot backward at surprising speeds. This sudden burst of movement allows them to evade predators quickly and efficiently. Jet propulsion is a key survival strategy for squid in the open ocean, combining speed and agility to escape threats in their environment. Ocean salt comes mainly from volcanic activity and the breakdown of rocks. The salinity of ocean water comes mainly from minerals carried into the sea over millions of years. Two primary sources contribute to it. Volcanic activity releases gases and minerals into the atmosphere and oceans, while the erosion of rocks on land dissolves minerals that rivers carry into the sea. These dissolved salts accumulate in ocean basins because water evaporates but leaves the minerals behind. The most common salt is sodium chloride, which gives seawater its characteristic salty taste. This process has been occurring for billions of years, maintaining ocean salinity at levels that are essential for marine life. Many marine animals use Earth's magnetic field to navigate. Various marine species have the remarkable ability to sense Earth's magnetic field, helping them navigate vast ocean distances accurately. Sea turtles, salmon, whales, and some fish can detect magnetic signals to locate breeding grounds, feeding areas, or migration routes. This natural magnetic compass allows them to travel thousands of miles across the open ocean, often returning to the exact places where they were born. Scientists are still studying how these animals detect magnetic fields, but it is clear that magnetoreception plays a crucial role in their survival and reproduction. Some starfish can regenerate entire bodies from a single arm. Starfish possess incredible regenerative abilities. If a starfish loses an arm because of an injury or predator, it can regrow the missing limb. Remarkably, some species can regenerate an entirely new body from a single arm and part of the central disc, as long as vital tissue is present. This ability allows starfish to survive attacks and maintain their populations. Regeneration involves complex cellular processes that rebuild muscles, nerves, and the skeleton, making starfish a fascinating subject for biological research on healing and regeneration. Plastic pollution in the ocean can enter the food chain through tiny organisms. Plastic pollution in the ocean breaks down into tiny particles called microplastics, which are easily ingested by small organisms, such as plankton and filter feeders. These tiny creatures form the foundation of the ocean food chain. Therefore, when they consume microplastics, the pollutants begin moving up through the food web. Fish, shellfish, and even larger predators can accumulate plastics through their diets, potentially affecting their health and survival. This pollution raises concerns about the health of ocean ecosystems and the safety of fish and seafood for human consumption, highlighting the urgent need to reduce plastic waste. Ocean acidification threatens shell-building creatures such as clams and crabs. As the ocean absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, its chemistry changes, becoming more acidic. This acidification makes it harder for marine animals such as clams, crabs, oysters, and corals to build and maintain their calcium carbonate shells and skeletons. Acidic waters dissolve the minerals these creatures depend on, weakening their shells and slowing their growth. This poses serious risks to marine ecosystems and the fisheries that depend on shell-building species. Scientists are closely monitoring chemical changes in the ocean to understand and mitigate the long-term impacts of acidification. The ocean's surface layer is only a few feet thick, but it is crucial for life. The upper layer of the ocean, known as the surface mixed layer, is surprisingly thin, usually only a few feet deep, but it plays a fundamental role in supporting life. This layer absorbs sunlight, allowing phytoplankton to perform photosynthesis and form the foundation of the marine food web. It also acts as the primary interface between the ocean and the atmosphere, regulating the exchange of gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide. Despite its limited thickness, this layer influences weather, climate, and the health of marine ecosystems around the world, making it a critical zone for life in the ocean. Many marine mammals use complex vocalizations to communicate. Marine mammals such as whales, dolphins, and seals communicate through sophisticated vocal sounds, including songs, clicks, whistles, and calls. These vocalizations can convey information about identity, location, readiness to mate, and social bonds. Some whale species produce haunting songs that can travel hundreds of miles underwater, allowing communication across vast distances. Researchers study these sounds to understand social structures and behaviors, as well as the effects of noise pollution on marine mammal communication. The ocean contains underwater lakes and rivers with different chemical compositions. Beneath the ocean's surface are unusual features known as underwater lakes and rivers. These are bodies of water with different chemical compositions, often saltier or denser, trapped in depressions on the seafloor. Because of their greater density, these lakes and rivers do not easily mix with the surrounding seawater and can flow along the ocean floor, creating unique habitats. Scientists have discovered such brine pools with extremely high salinity, which support specialized organisms adapted to these harsh conditions, expanding our understanding of ocean diversity. The ocean's salt content has remained stable for millions of years despite the constant input of minerals from rivers and volcanic activity. The ocean's overall salt content has remained surprisingly stable for millions of years. This balance results from complex natural processes that remove salts, including the formation of mineral deposits and the activity of marine organisms that use salts in their shells and skeletons. This long-term stability and salinity is crucial for maintaining marine life adapted to specific salt concentrations, and it helps regulate ocean currents and climate patterns. Some fish can see ultraviolet light, which is invisible to humans. Certain fish species have developed the ability to perceive ultraviolet light, which is invisible to the human eye. This enhanced vision helps them detect prey, predators, and mates in ways humans cannot. Ultraviolet vision can improve contrast in the water, especially in shallow, sunlit areas, and it can be used for communication through markings on their bodies that reflect ultraviolet light. This sensory adaptation gives these fish an ecological advantage, illustrating the remarkable diversity of visual abilities in the ocean. Whale songs can travel thousands of miles. Underwater, whales produce complex songs and calls that can travel extraordinary distances through the ocean depths. These sounds can travel thousands of miles, allowing whales to communicate across entire ocean basins. The songs serve several purposes, ranging from mating calls to social bonding and navigation. The efficiency of sound transmission underwater allows these enormous mammals to maintain contact in an environment where visibility is limited. Scientists study whale vocalizations to learn about their behavior and populations, helping to protect these majestic creatures. Ocean currents can influence the spread of pollutants and marine debris. Ocean currents act like gigantic conveyor belts that move not only heat and nutrients but also pollutants and waste. Plastics, chemicals, and other waste materials can travel thousands of miles, carried by surface currents into remote areas such as the center of the Pacific Ocean, where they accumulate in enormous garbage patches. These currents can spread pollutants across international borders, making ocean pollution a global problem. Understanding currents helps scientists predict the movement of pollutants and develop mitigation strategies. The ocean's largest predators, such as great white sharks, have slow reproductive rates. Many of the ocean's top predators, including great white sharks, have surprisingly slow reproductive rates. These species often mature late, sometimes taking more than a decade to reach adulthood, and they produce relatively few offspring compared with other fish. This slow life cycle makes them vulnerable to overfishing and environmental changes because their populations take a long time to recover. Conservation efforts are crucial for protecting these apex predators, which play essential roles in maintaining the balance of marine ecosystems. Sea cucumbers play a fundamental role in recycling nutrients on the ocean floor. Sea cucumbers may appear simple and slow, but they play a crucial role in keeping the seafloor healthy. These soft-bodied animals move across the ocean floor, feeding on debris, dead plant and animal matter, and tiny organic particles found in the sediment. As they consume this material, sea cucumbers break it down and excrete nutrient-rich waste that enriches the ocean floor. This recycling process helps maintain the balance of nutrients that support the growth of bacteria, algae, and other tiny organisms, which in turn sustain larger marine animals. In many ocean habitats, sea cucumbers are considered ecosystem engineers because their activity helps oxygenate the sediment and prevents the buildup of harmful substances. Without them, the delicate web of life on the seafloor could collapse. The ocean's deadliest creatures often use venom or toxins to defend themselves. Some of the ocean's most dangerous animals do not rely on speed or size, but instead use powerful venoms and toxins to protect themselves or capture prey. Take the box jellyfish as an example. Its venom is among the deadliest in the world and is capable of causing cardiac arrest in humans within minutes. The stonefish, often camouflaged against the ocean floor, delivers venom through sharp spines that can cause intense pain or even death. Cone snails, which may appear harmless, use a venomous harpoon to stun their prey instantly. These creatures evolved their venoms over millions of years, developing complex chemicals that target the nervous system. Although frightening, scientists carefully study these toxins because they have the potential to create new medicines, including pain relievers and treatments for heart disease and cancer. It is a reminder that even the ocean's deadliest creatures can inspire life-saving discoveries. Some marine plants can survive in conditions of extreme salinity. Not all ocean plants grow in mild saltwater conditions. Some species have adapted to survive in places where salt levels are extremely high, far beyond what most forms of life can tolerate. In salt marshes and coastal lagoons where evaporation leaves the water highly saline, certain plants and marine algae have developed specialized mechanisms to cope. These adaptations include cells that expel excess salt or store it safely to prevent damage. For example, mangroves have complex root systems that filter salt from seawater, allowing them to thrive in saline environments while protecting coastlines from erosion and storms. These salt-tolerant plants are essential for maintaining coastal ecosystems, providing habitat for fish and birds, and storing large amounts of carbon, which helps combat climate change. Their resilience demonstrates how life can flourish even under harsh conditions. The ocean's surface temperature has increased significantly over the past century. During the past century, human activities such as burning fossil fuels and deforestation have increased greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, causing global temperatures to rise. The ocean's surface temperature has also warmed significantly, with major consequences for marine life and the global climate. Warmer waters can disrupt delicate ecosystems, especially coral reefs, which bleach and die when temperatures exceed their tolerance. Fish and other animals may migrate toward cooler waters, disrupting food webs and fishing grounds. In addition, warmer oceans can intensify storms and hurricanes, affecting weather patterns around the world. Scientists carefully track ocean temperatures because even small changes can affect both marine and land ecosystems, influencing sea levels, biodiversity, and the health of the planet. Oceanic white-tip sharks are among the species considered most aggressive toward humans. Oceanic white-tip sharks are large and powerful predators found throughout tropical and subtropical oceans. They are recognized by the distinctive white tips on their fins and by their curious, sometimes bold behavior around humans. These sharks have been involved in multiple incidents with shipwreck survivors and divers, where their investigative nature and persistence can lead to aggression. Unlike some sharks that avoid human contact, oceanic white-tip sharks are often more willing to approach and investigate unfamiliar objects or people, which can be dangerous. Despite this reputation, they play an important ecological role as apex predators, helping maintain healthy ocean food chains by controlling populations of other marine animals. Unfortunately, oceanic white-tip sharks are now considered vulnerable because of overfishing and habitat loss, highlighting the need for their conservation. Microscopic ocean viruses are the most abundant biological entities on Earth. Invisible to the naked eye, viruses in the ocean exist in quantities so vast that they outnumber all other biological entities combined. These microscopic viruses play a critical role in ocean ecosystems by infecting bacteria and other microorganisms, regulating their populations, and recycling nutrients. When viruses kill marine microbes, they release organic material back into the environment, feeding the microbial food web. This constant viral activity influences the carbon cycle and helps maintain the balance of life in the ocean. Scientists estimate that there are approximately 10 to the 31st power viruses in the ocean, making them the most abundant biological entities on Earth. Although invisible, these tiny agents shape the health and productivity of marine ecosystems in profound ways. Some corals form symbiotic relationships with algae that provide them with energy. Coral reefs are built by tiny animals called coral polyps. However, their survival depends heavily on a partnership with microscopic algae known as zooxanthellae. These algae live within the coral's tissues and perform photosynthesis, converting sunlight into energy. The coral polyps receive the nutrients produced by the algae, helping them grow and build the calcium carbonate skeletons that form reefs. In return, the algae benefit from a protected environment and access to the coral's waste products, which they use as nutrients. This symbiotic relationship allows corals to thrive in nutrient-poor waters where food is scarce. However, when stressed by temperature changes or pollution, corals may expel their algae, causing coral bleaching and threatening the health of reefs around the world. The ocean's sea ice covers around 7% of its surface, but it plays an enormous role in the climate. Sea ice may cover only about 7% of the ocean's surface, but it has an enormous influence on Earth's climate system. Found mainly in the polar regions, sea ice reflects sunlight back into space, helping regulate global temperatures by keeping the planet cooler. It also provides critical habitat for polar species such as seals, penguins, and polar bears. As sea ice melts because of global warming, less sunlight is reflected, and the darker ocean absorbs more heat, accelerating warming through a feedback loop. Melting sea ice also affects ocean circulation and weather patterns around the globe. Scientists closely monitor sea ice as a sensitive indicator of climate change and a key element in Earth's environmental balance. Mangroves can filter salt from seawater to survive in coastal environments. Mangrove trees thrive in coastal areas where freshwater meets the ocean, environments that would be too salty for most plants. To survive, mangroves have developed special adaptations for filtering salt. Their roots act as natural filters, blocking most of the salt before it enters the plant. Any salt that passes through is stored in older leaves, which eventually fall and remove the salt from the plant's system. This remarkable ability allows mangroves to grow in salty, oxygen-poor soils where few other trees can survive. Mangrove forests protect coastlines from erosion, provide breeding grounds for fish, and store large amounts of carbon, making them vital to both marine ecosystems and climate regulation. Some fish can rapidly change color to camouflage themselves or communicate. Certain fish species possess the extraordinary ability to quickly change their colors and patterns to blend into their surroundings or communicate with others. This rapid color change is possible because of specialized cells called chromatophores, which contain pigments that can expand or contract. Color-changing fish, such as cuttlefish or flatfish, adjust their coloration to match the seafloor or coral reefs, helping them avoid predators or stalk prey. Color changes can also serve as social signals during mating displays, territorial disputes, or warnings to rivals. This dynamic form of communication and protection highlights the incredible adaptations marine life has developed to survive in the ocean's diverse and competitive environment. Marine snow in the ocean is a constant rain of organic material. From the surface to the depths, marine snow is a continuous cascade of organic material falling from the sunlit surface waters into the dark depths of the ocean. This snow consists of dead plankton, waste matter, pieces of algae, and other debris. It serves as a crucial food source for deep-sea creatures living far from sunlight. Despite its slow descent, marine snow carries vital nutrients that sustain life in the abyssal zones. This constant rain helps connect surface ecosystems with the deep ocean, forming an essential part of the ocean's carbon cycle by moving carbon from the atmosphere into the deep sea, where it can be stored for centuries or longer. Seagrass meadows are among the most carbon-rich ecosystems on the planet. Seagrass meadows found in shallow coastal waters around the world are among the most efficient carbon sinks on the planet. These underwater grasslands capture and store large amounts of carbon in their roots and surrounding sediments, often called blue carbon. Seagrasses grow quickly and trap sediment, preventing coastal erosion and improving water clarity. They also provide vital habitats for fish, turtles, and other marine animals. The carbon stored in seagrass meadows helps mitigate climate change by locking away carbon dioxide that would otherwise remain in the atmosphere. Protecting and restoring these meadows is increasingly recognized as a nature-based solution for reducing global carbon emissions. Some crabs use sea anemones as protective weapons in their claws. Certain crab species have developed a fascinating symbiotic relationship with sea anemones, which they carry in their claws as living weapons. The crab benefits from the anemone's stinging tentacles, which deter predators and competitors, while the anemone gains mobility and access to food scraps stirred up by the crab. This partnership provides the crab with an effective defense mechanism without requiring it to produce its own toxins. By waving the stinging anemones at threats, these crabs can drive away attackers, demonstrating one of the ocean's many examples of ingenious evolutionary cooperation between species. The ocean is home to giant barrel sponges that can live for thousands of years. Giant barrel sponges are among the longest-living animals in the ocean, with some individuals estimated to be more than 2,000 years old. These large, barrel-shaped sponges filter enormous amounts of water each day, removing bacteria and organic particles while also playing a key role in maintaining the health of reef ecosystems. Their slow growth and impressive longevity make them natural records of environmental changes because the layers of their tissues record chemical and temperature variations over centuries. Despite their ancient nature, giant barrel sponges are vulnerable to pollution, climate change, and physical damage, making their conservation important for preserving reef biodiversity. Ocean tides also affect the reproductive cycles of some animals. Many marine animals synchronize their reproductive cycles with ocean tides, using the regular rise and fall of the water level as environmental signals. For example, certain species of fish, crabs, and corals time their spawning events to coincide with high tides or specific lunar phases, ensuring that larvae are carried away from predators and dispersed widely. This tidal synchronization increases the chances of reproductive success by matching the availability of suitable habitats and food for offspring. The relationship between tides and reproduction highlights the extent to which ocean rhythms influence marine life, linking biological cycles to the gravitational forces of the moon and the sun. Certain fish use electric fields to hunt or communicate. Some fish have developed the remarkable ability to produce and detect electric fields, which they use to navigate, communicate, and hunt in dark, shallow, or murky waters. Electric eels, for example, generate powerful electrical discharges to stun their prey or defend themselves. Other species, such as elephant fish and knifefish, emit weak electrical signals to locate food and communicate with other members of their species. This electrical sense works like biological radar, helping fish perceive their surroundings through electrical impulses when visibility is limited. It is an extraordinary adaptation that demonstrates the diverse ways ocean life perceives the world. The ocean contains natural oil seeps that support unique communities beneath the sea's surface. Natural oil seeps slowly release hydrocarbons into the water. These seeps create unique ecosystems where specialized bacteria break down the oil, providing energy to a wide variety of organisms. Communities of tube worms, clams, and other creatures thrive around these seeps, forming habitats very different from typical marine environments. These ecosystems demonstrate how life can adapt to extreme conditions and use unusual energy sources, highlighting the ocean's incredible biological diversity and resilience. The ocean's surface layer is home to floating organisms called neuston. Neuston refers to a community of organisms that live on or near the ocean's surface, directly at the boundary between water and air. This includes tiny algae, bacteria, jellyfish larvae, and floating sea snails. Neuston organisms play essential roles in ocean food webs by feeding larger animals and contributing to nutrient cycling. Because they occupy this thin and dynamic layer, they are highly sensitive to environmental changes such as pollution and temperature variations. Understanding neuston helps scientists learn how surface ecosystems are connected to the overall health of the ocean. Some marine worms build complex tubular structures that support coral reefs. Certain marine worms, such as the Christmas tree worm, build intricate calcium carbonate tubes embedded in coral reefs. These tubes provide shelter and protection not only for the worms themselves, but also for other small creatures. By constructing these complex structures, marine worms contribute to the reef's complexity and biodiversity. Their presence helps stabilize the reef, creating microhabitats that support a wide variety of marine life. These tiny engineers play a surprisingly important role in maintaining the health and resilience of coral ecosystems. Ocean waves are generated mainly by wind, but also by earthquakes and landslides. Ocean waves are most commonly created by wind blowing across the surface of the water, transferring energy and generating waves that can travel thousands of miles. However, some waves have more dramatic origins. Underwater earthquakes and landslides can trigger tsunamis, massive and powerful waves capable of traveling at extremely high speeds and causing widespread destruction when they reach the coast. While wind-generated waves shape everyday coastal environments and marine navigation, tsunamis are reminders of the ocean's dynamic and sometimes violent nature. Certain jellyfish swarms can extend for miles, affecting local ecosystems. Some jellyfish species are known to form massive swarms that can extend for miles across the ocean's surface. These swarms, often called blooms, can dramatically affect local ecosystems by competing with fish for food, clogging fishing nets, and sometimes even disrupting the cooling systems of power plants. Jellyfish blooms can result from factors such as changes in water temperature, the overfishing of their predators, and nutrient pollution. Their enormous numbers can disrupt marine food webs, but they are also natural parts of ocean dynamics, reminding us of the delicate balance within marine environments. Largest fish in the ocean is the whale shark, which is a gentle filter feeder. The whale shark holds the title of the largest fish on Earth, reaching up to about 39 feet or more. Despite their enormous size, whale sharks are gentle giants that feed mainly by filtering tiny plankton, fish eggs, and small fish from the water. They swim slowly with their enormous mouths open, straining food through specialized gill rakers. Found in tropical and warm oceans around the world, whale sharks move slowly and pose no threat to humans. Their colossal size, combined with their gentle nature, makes them one of the ocean's most fascinating creatures. Some seabirds depend on ocean currents to travel great distances with minimal effort. Many seabirds take advantage of powerful ocean currents and wind patterns to travel thousands of miles during migrations or foraging trips. Species such as albatrosses and petrels use dynamic soaring, a technique that takes advantage of wind gradients above the waves, allowing them to glide effortlessly across vast stretches of ocean. This efficient movement enables them to cover enormous distances without using much energy. By taking advantage of ocean currents and winds, these birds connect distant parts of the marine ecosystem, playing essential roles in nutrient transport and ecosystem connectivity. The ocean's water cycle plays a fundamental role in global rainfall patterns. The ocean is the main engine of Earth's water cycle, continuously evaporating enormous amounts of water that later fall as rain or snow over land and sea. This evaporation drives weather systems and influences global climate patterns such as monsoons and hurricanes. Warm ocean waters provide the moisture needed for storms, and the movement of ocean currents helps distribute this moisture around the planet. Therefore, changes in ocean temperatures can directly affect the distribution of rainfall, droughts, and floods, affecting ecosystems and human societies around the world. Some sea slugs can incorporate chloroplasts from algae into their own cells. Certain species of sea slugs possess the astonishing ability to extract chloroplasts, the photosynthetic machinery of the algae they feed on, and integrate them into their own cells. This process, called kleptoplasty, allows the slugs to perform photosynthesis and generate energy from sunlight. Similar to plants, these sea slugs can retain the stolen chloroplasts for weeks or months, effectively becoming solar-powered animals. This adaptation blurs the boundaries between plant and animal functions and shows how evolution can produce surprising survival strategies in the ocean's complex ecosystems. Ocean coral skeletons record historical climate data in a way similar to tree rings. Coral skeletons grow in layers, much like the rings of a tree, and each layer records information about ocean temperature, chemistry, and nutrient levels at the time it formed. Scientists study these layers to reconstruct past climate conditions and understand how the ocean has changed over centuries or even millennia. By analyzing coral cores, researchers can track phenomena such as El Niño, ocean acidification, and long-term warming trends. This natural archive provides valuable information about climate history and helps predict future changes, making corals important not only for marine life but also for climate science. Some fish use sonic bursts to communicate or deter predators. Certain fish species produce powerful sonic bursts by rapidly contracting muscles near their swim bladders. These sounds serve multiple purposes, such as attracting mates, communicating with other fish, or frightening potential predators. For example, the toadfish produces a distinctive sound similar to a boat horn to establish its territory and court females. These acoustic signals can travel long distances underwater, overcoming the challenges of limited visibility in murky or dark environments. This acoustic behavior highlights the diverse ways marine animals have evolved to survive and interact in their complex habitats. Ocean eddies can trap nutrients and support local marine productivity. Ocean eddies are rotating masses of water that can span from dozens to hundreds of miles and last for weeks or months. These rotating currents trap nutrients from the deep ocean and concentrate them near the surface, creating hotspots of marine productivity. These nutrient-rich areas support the growth of phytoplankton, which forms the foundation of the marine food chain. Fish, seabirds, and marine mammals often gather around these eddies to feed, making them critical ecological features. By influencing nutrient distribution and ecosystem dynamics, eddies play an important role in maintaining the health of ocean life. Some crustaceans practice complex mating rituals and parental care. Crustaceans, such as certain species of crabs and shrimp, engage in elaborate mating behaviors that include courtship dances, displays of bright colors, and even the construction of nests or burrows to attract mates. After fertilization, many crustaceans show parental care by protecting their eggs, aerating them, and carrying the larvae until they are ready to survive independently. This level of care increases the survival rate of their offspring in a challenging environment. Such behaviors reveal the complexity of life strategies among marine invertebrates, going beyond simple reproduction to include care and protection. Ocean hydrothermal vents release chemicals that support entire ecosystems without sunlight. Hydrothermal vents are openings in the seafloor through which superheated, mineral-rich water flows into the ocean. These vents create unique ecosystems that thrive without sunlight by relying on chemosynthesis, a process in which bacteria convert chemicals from the vents, such as hydrogen sulfide, into energy. These bacteria form the foundation of food webs that support a variety of specialized creatures, including giant tube worms, clams, and shrimp. Hydrothermal vent communities challenge traditional views of life by demonstrating that ecosystems can flourish in dark and extreme environments using chemical energy instead of sunlight. Ocean saltwater is heavier than freshwater, causing stratification. In some areas, saltwater is denser than freshwater because of its dissolved salts, meaning it weighs more per unit of volume. This difference in density causes stratification in certain ocean regions, where saltier and heavier water sinks beneath fresher and lighter water. This layering affects ocean circulation, nutrient mixing, and the distribution of marine life. For example, areas where fresh water from rivers meets ocean saltwater often form distinct layers that influence plankton growth and fish behavior. Understanding these layers is important for studying marine ecosystems and how they respond to environmental changes. Some deep-sea fish have transparent heads that help them see prey above them. A few species of deep-sea fish, such as the barrel-eye fish, have developed transparent heads that allow them to look upward while protecting their eyes. This unusual adaptation helps them detect prey silhouetted against the faint light coming from above in the dark depths. Their tubular eyes can rotate inside their transparent domes, giving them a wide field of vision. This specialized anatomy is an excellent example of how life adapts to extreme environments where light is scarce, allowing these fish to hunt efficiently in the perpetual darkness of the deep ocean. The ocean's plankton population is highly sensitive to temperature changes. Plankton, made up of microscopic organisms that float near the ocean's surface, is extremely sensitive to variations in water temperature. Even slight warming can affect its growth, reproduction, and distribution. Because plankton forms the foundation of the marine food web, temperature-driven changes can affect entire ecosystems, influencing populations of fish, seabirds, and marine mammals. Seasonal plankton blooms depend on a delicate balance of light and temperature, so rising ocean temperatures caused by climate change threaten to disrupt these vital cycles, with consequences for biodiversity and fisheries around the world. Many marine organisms use bioluminescence to communicate in the dark. Bioluminescence, the ability to produce light through chemical reactions, is widespread in the ocean, especially among creatures living in deep or murky waters. Marine organisms use this glowing ability for various purposes, including attracting mates, luring prey, deterring predators, and signaling danger. For example, some squid produce flashing lights to confuse attackers, while certain jellyfish emit a steady glow to blend in with the faint light coming from above. This natural light show reveals how life in the ocean has evolved to communicate and survive in environments with little or no sunlight. The ocean's surface microlayer is a unique habitat for specialized microorganisms. The ocean's surface microlayer is a thin, invisible boundary between the atmosphere and the water below, only a fraction of an inch thick. Despite its tiny size, this layer supports a diverse community of microorganisms adapted to the unique chemical and physical conditions found there. These microbes play important roles in processes such as gas exchange, nutrient cycling, and even cloud formation. Because the microlayer interacts directly with the air, it is also sensitive to pollution and climate change, making it a critical but often overlooked component of the ocean ecosystem. Some marine algae can produce biofuels, offering the potential for sustainable energy. Marine algae, including certain species of large seaweed and microalgae, are promising sources of biofuels that could help reduce dependence on fossil fuels. These algae grow rapidly and efficiently convert sunlight and carbon dioxide into biomass, which can be processed into bioethanol, biodiesel, or biogas. Unlike land crops, marine algae do not require freshwater or farmland, making them a sustainable option that does not compete with food production. Research is underway to improve algae-based biofuel production and reduce costs, which could transform ocean plants into a vital source of renewable energy for the future. Ocean dead zones are growing because of pollution and climate change. Dead zones are areas of the ocean where oxygen levels are so low that most marine life cannot survive. These zones have been increasing around the world, largely because of nutrient pollution from fertilizers and wastewater that triggers massive algae blooms. When the algae die and decompose, oxygen is consumed, creating hypoxic conditions. Climate change makes the problem worse by warming the water and reducing the solubility of oxygen. Dead zones threaten fisheries, disrupt ecosystems, and reduce biodiversity. Understanding and addressing the causes of dead zones is essential for protecting marine environments and the human livelihoods that depend on healthy oceans. Certain fish can survive in both saltwater and freshwater, such as salmon. Some fish species, known as anadromous fish, can live in both saltwater and freshwater during different stages of their lives. Salmon are a well-known example. They are born in freshwater rivers, migrate to the ocean to grow and mature, and then return to their birthplace to spawn. These fish possess special physiological adaptations that allow them to regulate their internal salt balance despite changes in their environment. This remarkable ability helps them take advantage of different habitats and resources, but it also exposes them to threats in both freshwater and marine ecosystems, including pollution, habitat loss, and overfishing. The ocean contains underwater canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon. Beneath the ocean's surface lie deep underwater canyons carved by rivers, sediment flows, and tectonic activity. Some of these canyons, such as Monterey Canyon in California, are deeper and longer than the Grand Canyon. These underwater valleys provide unique habitats for marine life, channel nutrients and sediment from land into the deep sea, and influence ocean currents. Their steep walls and complex topography make them important biodiversity hotspots, but they remain largely unexplored because of their depth and inaccessibility. Some sea turtles use Earth's magnetic field to navigate thousands of miles. Sea turtles are incredible navigators that travel thousands of miles across the oceans to return to their native beaches to lay eggs. Scientists have discovered that they use Earth's magnetic field as a natural global positioning system. Turtles can detect subtle variations in the strength and angle of the magnetic field, helping them determine their location and direction. This magnetic sense guides their long-distance migrations even across vast stretches of ocean without visual landmarks, ensuring that they find suitable nesting sites year after year despite the challenges of traveling across the open sea. The ocean's nutrient cycles are driven by the upwelling of deep, cold water. Upwelling is a process in which deep, cold, nutrient-rich water rises to the ocean's surface. This movement brings essential nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus, which support the growth of phytoplankton, the foundation of the marine food web. Upwelling regions, such as the coasts of California and Peru, support some of the most productive fisheries in the world. Because of this nutrient supply, these cycles play a crucial role in ocean ecology, supporting diverse marine life and affecting the global carbon cycle by promoting photosynthesis in surface waters. Ocean acidification can affect fish behavior and their ability to avoid predators. As the ocean absorbs more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, it becomes more acidic. This change in water chemistry can alter the sensory abilities of fish, affecting how they detect predators and navigate their surroundings. Studies have shown that some fish become less cautious and more vulnerable to predators in more acidic waters. These behavioral changes can have cascading effects throughout marine ecosystems, altering relationships between predators and prey and potentially affecting fish populations and fisheries that are important to human communities. Some marine species can live for more than 200 years, such as the Greenland shark. The Greenland shark is one of the longest living vertebrates on Earth, with an estimated lifespan exceeding 200 years. These slow-growing sharks inhabit the cold, deep waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. Their longevity is linked to their slow metabolism and cold environment. Studying such long-lived species helps scientists understand the aging process and the effects of environmental changes on marine life over the course of centuries. The ocean's surface reflects approximately 6% of incoming solar radiation, influencing the climate. The ocean's surface reflects a portion of the sun's energy back into space, which is known as albedo. On average, around 6% of incoming solar radiation is reflected by the ocean's surface, depending on factors such as wave conditions and the angle of sunlight. This reflection influences Earth's energy balance and climate. Changes in ocean surface conditions, such as melting sea ice or increased cloud cover, can alter reflectivity and therefore affect global temperature regulation. Certain marine bacteria can break down plastic, offering hope for pollution cleanup. Plastic pollution is a growing problem in the oceans. However, some marine bacteria have demonstrated the ability to break down plastic materials. These bacteria produce enzymes that degrade plastics such as polyethylene terephthalate into smaller and less harmful components. Although this natural biodegradation is slow and is not yet a complete solution, understanding and harnessing these bacteria could lead to new biotechnologies for reducing plastic waste and mitigating pollution in marine environments. The largest waterfalls on Earth are beneath the ocean. When we think of a waterfall, we usually imagine a river flowing over a cliff. However, the largest waterfalls on the planet are hidden beneath the sea. One of the most impressive is located in the Denmark Strait between Greenland and Iceland. There, cold, dense water from the Arctic sinks beneath warmer and less dense water, forming a gigantic underwater drop more than 1.8 miles high. This makes it a much taller waterfall than any waterfall on land, including Angel Falls. Although this phenomenon is invisible from the surface, it moves enormous volumes of water and plays an essential role in global ocean circulation. These underwater waterfalls help transport oxygen, nutrients, and heat throughout the oceans, influencing the climate and marine life across the entire planet. Some fish survive without hemoglobin in their blood. In the cold waters surrounding Antarctica lives an extraordinary group known as icefish. Unlike nearly all other vertebrates, these fish lack hemoglobin, the protein responsible for transporting oxygen in the blood and giving it its red color. As a result, their blood is nearly transparent. This apparent disadvantage is possible because of the extremely low temperatures of the Antarctic Ocean, where the water contains a greater amount of dissolved oxygen. In addition, these fish have larger hearts, wider blood vessels, and highly efficient circulation that compensates for the absence of hemoglobin. They also produce antifreeze proteins that prevent their bodily fluids from freezing. These adaptations make icefish one of the most remarkable examples of specialized evolution in extreme environments. Some octopuses build shelters using objects found on the seafloor. Octopuses are known for their intelligence and problem-solving abilities, but some species take these skills even further by building shelters with materials available in the ocean. The coconut octopus, for example, collects empty mollusk shells, coconut halves, and even small objects discarded by humans to use as portable hiding places. When it detects danger, it carries these pieces for several feet and then carefully arranges them to form a temporary shelter where it can hide. This behavior requires planning and the ability to use tools, something very uncommon among invertebrates. Researchers believe this behavior demonstrates a remarkable level of intelligence and flexibility. In an environment filled with predators, building a movable shelter can make the difference between survival and becoming the next meal. Glass sponges build structures that can remain intact for thousands of years. In the depths of the ocean, there are sponges very different from those that inhabit tropical reefs. Known as glass sponges, they have skeletons made of silica, the same material found in glass. Their delicate structures resemble crystal sculptures and can reach surprising sizes. Some species live for thousands of years and form extensive reefs in deep water, where they provide shelter for fish, crustaceans, and other invertebrates. For a long time, these reefs were believed to have disappeared along with the dinosaurs, until underwater explorations discovered enormous living communities off the Pacific coast of Canada. Because they grow extremely slowly, these ecosystems are highly vulnerable to human activities, since damage caused by fishing nets or heavy equipment can take centuries to recover. Pistol shrimp produce an explosion hotter than the surface of the sun for a fraction of a second. Despite measuring only about an inch or two, pistol shrimp possess one of the most astonishing weapons in the ocean. One of their claws is modified to snap shut at an extraordinary speed, releasing a jet of water that creates a cavitation bubble. When this bubble collapses, it produces a shock wave so intense that it reaches extremely high temperatures for a tiny fraction of a second, even hotter than the surface of the sun. It also generates a flash of light and a powerful sound capable of stunning or killing small nearby prey. Although this phenomenon occurs on a microscopic scale and lasts only a very short time, it demonstrates how complex physical principles can appear in nature. Entire colonies of these shrimp produce so much noise that, in some regions, they interfere with sonar systems used by boats and submarines. Some starfish can feed by pushing their stomachs outside their bodies. Many starfish use a feeding method that is as strange as it is efficient. When they encounter a mollusk, such as a clam or mussel, they use hundreds of tiny tube feet to slowly separate the shell by only a fraction of an inch. Through this tiny opening, they push their stomach outside their body and insert the organ directly into the shell. There, they begin digesting the prey before even consuming it. Once the tissues have partially broken down, the starfish pulls its stomach back inside along with the already processed food. This strategy allows it to consume animals protected by extremely strong shells without having to break them completely. It is an extraordinary adaptation that demonstrates the many ways evolution has solved the challenge of finding food in the ocean. Greenland shark can live for several centuries. Among all known vertebrates, one of the champions of longevity lives in the cold waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. It is the Greenland shark, a species that grows extremely slowly, only a little over an inch per year. Studies conducted by analyzing proteins found in their eyes have estimated that some individuals are more than 300 years old and may even approach 400. This extraordinary longevity means that some sharks alive today were already swimming in the ocean when major events in human history were still unfolding. Their extremely slow metabolism, supported by the low temperatures, appears to be one of the factors contributing to their long lives. Although they have been known for centuries, many aspects of their biology and reproduction remain a mystery to science. Some deep-sea coral colonies thrive in complete darkness. When people think of coral, most imagine tropical reefs illuminated by the sun. However, numerous species live hundreds or even thousands of feet below the surface, where sunlight never reaches. These deep-water corals do not depend on photosynthetic algae like their tropical relatives. Instead, they capture tiny organic particles and small animals carried by ocean currents. Over thousands of years, they form true underwater forests that provide shelter for an enormous diversity of fish and invertebrates. Because they grow extremely slowly, some colonies take centuries to reach their current size. These ecosystems remained unknown until the development of underwater vehicles capable of exploring the depths, revealing a world filled with life where people once believed only a dark desert existed. Some species of flying fish can glide for hundreds of yards above the ocean. Flying fish do not flap their fins like birds, but they have developed an extraordinary technique for escaping predators. By swimming at high speed near the surface, they propel their bodies out of the water and spread their large pectoral fins, which function like wings. Taking advantage of air currents above the waves, they can glide for several hundred yards before returning to the water. Some species even use their tails to strike the surface again while they are still moving, gaining additional momentum that extends their journey. This strategy greatly reduces their chances of being caught by predatory fish such as tuna, dolphinfish, or swordfish. Although they spend only a few seconds outside the water, their flights are among the most striking spectacles that can be observed in the open sea. Cold seeps support entire communities without depending on sunlight. In addition to hydrothermal vents, there are other regions of the seafloor called cold seeps, where methane, hydrogen sulfide, and other chemical compounds slowly emerge from within the Earth. Although they do not have the high temperatures of hydrothermal vents, these places support equally astonishing ecosystems. Specialized bacteria use these chemical compounds as an energy source through chemosynthesis, forming the foundation of a complex food web. Giant clams, tube worms, mussels, and numerous crustaceans adapted exclusively to these environments thrive around them. Many of these species exist nowhere else on the planet. The study of these ecosystems has greatly expanded our understanding of the limits of life and strengthened the possibility that similar organisms could exist in hidden oceans beneath the surfaces of other worlds in the solar system. Ardent eels spend almost their entire lives emerging from burrows on the ocean floor. At first glance, a group of garden eels may resemble a field of aquatic plants moving with the current. However, each of those slender bodies belongs to a fish living inside a burrow dug into the sand. These eels rarely leave their shelters. They keep most of their bodies hidden while swaying to capture tiny organisms carried by the currents. When they sense a threat, they disappear into their tunnels within seconds. Each individual maintains its own territory, but thousands can form extremely dense colonies covering large areas of the seafloor. Their behavior allows them to feed efficiently without using too much energy, demonstrating how some species have found very different solutions for surviving in an environment where remaining hidden is often the best strategy. Some marine sponges are carnivorous. Although most sponges obtain food by filtering microscopic particles from the water, certain species living in deep water have evolved in a completely different way. Because very little food is suspended in the water in these environments, these sponges developed structures covered with tiny hooks capable of trapping small crustaceans and other invertebrates. Once the prey is immobilized, the sponge's cells slowly begin surrounding it until it is completely digested. This process can take several days, but it is highly effective in a place where feeding opportunities are scarce. The discovery of these carnivorous sponges surprised scientists because, for centuries, all sponges were believed to feed exclusively through filtration. Their existence demonstrates that even seemingly simple organisms can develop extraordinary survival strategies. Sea turtles remember the magnetic field of the beach where they were born. Sea turtles undertake some of the longest migrations in the animal kingdom, traveling thousands of miles across the open ocean. Decades after leaving the beach where they were born, many females return to the same place to lay their own eggs. Scientists believe much of this incredible accuracy is due to turtles memorizing the distinctive magnetic signature of each region while they are still hatchlings. As they grow, they use Earth's magnetic field as an enormous map and natural compass that guides them during their journeys. In addition to this magnetic information, they may also use chemical signals and ocean currents to navigate. This combination of senses allows them to find very specific beaches again, even after spending much of their lives traveling across entire oceans. Some crabs decorate their bodies with living organisms to hide. Crabs known as decorator crabs inhabit reefs and rocky seafloors, and their behavior seems more like that of an artist than a crustacean. Using small, specialized claws, they tear off pieces of algae, sponges, anemones, or hydroids and carefully place them on tiny hooks found on their shells. In this way, they create living camouflage that makes them look like part of their surroundings. In some cases, the attached organisms continue growing while the crab carries them. When it changes habitats, the crab may remove its old decoration and replace it with something that better matches the new landscape. Some species even prefer organisms that produce stinging or toxic substances, gaining additional protection from predators. This strategy makes these crabs true masters of disguise. Pumice rafts can travel across entire oceans while carrying marine life. After certain underwater volcanic eruptions, enormous amounts of pumice float to the surface and form temporary islands. Because this rock contains thousands of tiny air-filled cavities, it can remain afloat for months or even years. As it drifts with the currents, numerous organisms begin to colonize it. Algae, barnacles, small mollusks, juvenile corals, and even some crustaceans use these floating platforms to travel to regions far from their places of origin. In this way, a single volcanic eruption can contribute to the natural dispersal of species among different island chains and continents. Scientists believe this phenomenon has played an important role in the colonization of new islands throughout Earth's geological history. Some whales help fertilize the ocean through their movements. In addition to being the largest animals on the planet, whales play an important role in maintaining the balance of marine ecosystems. When they feed at depth and then rise to breathe, they release nutrient-rich waste near the surface. These nutrients, especially iron and nitrogen, encourage the growth of phytoplankton, which forms the foundation of much of marine life. This process, known as the whale pump, helps increase biological productivity across large ocean regions. In turn, greater phytoplankton growth promotes the capture of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through photosynthesis. In this way, whales are not only part of the food chain, but also indirectly participate in processes related to the global carbon cycle and climate regulation. Cleaner fish operate real service stations for other marine animals. In many tropical reefs, there are specific places known as cleaning stations. Small fish and shrimp live there and feed on parasites, dead skin, and debris found on the bodies of much larger animals. Large fish, rays, moray eels, and even sharks regularly visit these sites and remain still while they are cleaned. Most surprisingly, predators capable of easily devouring these small cleaners usually leave them unharmed during the process. This relationship benefits both sides. The cleaners receive a steady supply of food, while their clients reduce their parasite loads and improve their health. Researchers have observed that many species repeatedly visit the same stations for years, forming surprisingly stable relationships within the reef ecosystem. Some jellyfish can reach sizes comparable to a multi-story building. Among the ocean's most impressive creatures is the lion's mane jellyfish. Its bell can exceed 6½ feet in diameter, and its tentacles can reach more than 98 feet in length, making it one of the longest known animals. These enormous tentacles contain millions of stinging cells used to capture fish and small invertebrates. Although its appearance is imposing, most specimens live in the cold waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans, where they form part of complex food chains. Numerous species of juvenile fish use their long tentacles as shelter from predators, taking advantage of the protection offered by the jellyfish's venom. In this way, even a seemingly simple animal can become a small, floating ecosystem. Cone snails produce some of the most complex venoms known. Cone snails appear to be completely harmless mollusks because of their beautiful shells decorated with geometric patterns. However, they are highly specialized predators. They conceal a modified tooth that functions like a small harpoon connected to a powerful venom gland. When they detect prey, they fire this harpoon at great speed and inject a mixture made up of hundreds of different toxins. These substances quickly block the nervous systems of fish, worms, or mollusks, immobilizing them almost immediately. Scientists study these molecules with great interest because some act with extreme precision on specific nerve cells. In fact, certain compounds derived from cone snail venom have already served as the basis for developing medications used to treat severe pain and other neurological conditions. The deep ocean is home to giants that evolved under extreme pressure. In various regions of the deep ocean, a phenomenon known as deep-sea gigantism occurs. Some animals with small relatives in surface waters grow much larger when they live at great depths. There are giant isopods the size of a house cat, sea spiders with legs spanning more than 1½ feet, and enormous squid. Scientists believe this phenomenon may be related to low temperatures, slow metabolism, and the need to store energy during long periods between meals. Although there is still no definitive explanation, deep-sea gigantism represents one of the most striking evolutionary patterns in the deep ocean. Each new expedition continues to discover giant species that remained hidden for millions of years in the planet's most inaccessible regions. Some transparent fish allow their internal organs to be observed. In certain ocean regions, fish live with skin and muscles that are almost completely transparent, an adaptation that provides excellent camouflage in open water where there are few places to hide. Because they are nearly invisible, predators have much more difficulty detecting them. Some species retain only opaque organs such as the brain, heart, or eyes, while the rest of the body allows light to pass through almost completely. This transparency is especially common among fish larvae, although some adults retain it throughout their lives. For scientists, these animals provide an exceptional opportunity to study physiological processes without invasive procedures. Evolution has shown that, in certain marine environments, the best survival strategy is not to fight or flee, but simply to remain unnoticed. Artificial reefs can become new homes for thousands of marine species. Although natural reefs take thousands of years to form, humans have discovered that certain structures carefully placed on the seafloor can eventually develop into true ecosystems. Deliberately sunken ships, specially designed concrete blocks, and even some retired oil platforms are eventually colonized by algae, corals, sponges, and numerous invertebrates. As these organisms grow, they begin attracting fish of various sizes, turtles, and other marine animals. Over the years, some artificial reefs come to support surprising biodiversity. When properly planned and placed in suitable locations, they can help restore degraded habitats and reduce pressure on natural reefs heavily visited by tourists or affected by human activity. Some manta rays perform spectacular leaps completely out of the water. Giant manta rays are known for their graceful movements underwater, but they also perform one of the ocean's most astonishing displays. At times, they swim rapidly toward the surface and propel themselves with such force that their entire enormous bodies emerge from the water before crashing back down with a powerful impact. Some can rise several feet above the surface despite weighing hundreds of pounds. Scientists are still investigating the exact reason for this behavior. These leaps may help remove parasites attached to their skin, serve as a form of communication between individuals, or form part of courtship rituals. Whatever their purpose, these acrobatics reveal the incredible strength and agility of animals that normally appear to move with complete calm beneath the waves. Seashells record information about the environment in which they grew. Just as trees preserve a record of their growth through rings, many mollusk shells accumulate successive layers of calcium carbonate throughout their lives. Each of these layers contains small chemical variations related to the water temperature, salinity, and food availability at the time it formed. By analyzing these natural records, scientists can reconstruct how ocean conditions changed over decades or even centuries. This field of study makes it possible to understand the evolution of the marine climate, identify ancient periods of warming or cooling, and better understand how ecosystems respond to environmental changes. Through these small-time capsules, seemingly simple organisms help reveal the hidden history of the oceans. Catfish walk along the bottom using their fins. Not all fish depend entirely on swimming to move. Some species known as batfish spend much of their time slowly walking across the seafloor using modified fins that function like small legs. Instead of actively chasing their prey, they move slowly while searching for small crustaceans, worms, and other invertebrates hidden among the sand or rocks. Many species also possess an appendage above the head that acts as a lure to attract food toward the mouth. Their appearance is so unusual that it puzzled the first explorers who observed them for a long time. These fish demonstrate that marine evolution has produced forms of movement far more varied than we normally imagine. Siphonophore colonies can reach extraordinary lengths. At first glance, a siphonophore appears to be a single elongated organism floating in the depths. However, it is actually made up of thousands of tiny individuals called zooids, all connected and specialized for different functions. Some are responsible for capturing food, others for reproduction, others for defending the colony, and others for propelling its movement. They all depend entirely on one another to survive. Some recently discovered species exceed 131 feet in length, making them some of the longest known animals. Despite their enormous size, they are extremely delicate and can break apart easily if handled. These colonies represent one of the most astonishing examples of biological cooperation, in which thousands of organisms function as though they were a single, perfectly coordinated living being. Dolphins use bubbles as tools while hunting. Dolphins possess remarkable intelligence and use various cooperative strategies to catch fish. One particularly ingenious behavior has been observed in some populations. Several individuals swim in circles while releasing air bubbles, forming a type of cylindrical net around a school of fish. Trapped by this visual barrier, the fish remain grouped together and have fewer opportunities to escape. The dolphins then take turns swimming through the school to feed. At other times, they produce bubble rings that they appear to use during play or as part of their social interactions. These behaviors demonstrate a high level of coordination and learning, since the techniques vary among different populations and can be passed from one generation to the next through observation. Larvae of many marine species spend weeks floating before finding a permanent home. Numerous ocean animals begin life in a form completely different from that of adults. After hatching, their tiny larvae float freely as part of the plankton and are carried by currents for days, weeks, or even months. During this period, they travel enormous distances while feeding and continuing to develop. Only when they reach a certain level of maturity do they search for a suitable place to settle permanently. Corals, sea urchins, starfish, mollusks, and many fish go through this stage. It allows species to colonize new habitats and maintain genetic exchange between distant populations. However, they also depend on currents carrying them toward favorable environments, since an unsuitable destination can completely prevent their survival. Pufferfish create some of the most elaborate nests in the ocean. In the waters near Japan, a small male pufferfish performs an extraordinary task when the breeding season arrives. Using only his fins, he spends several days constructing an enormous circular pattern of perfectly symmetrical grooves and ridges on the sandy seafloor. These structures can measure more than 6½ feet in diameter, dozens of times larger than the fish itself. In addition to their impressive appearance, the channels help direct fine particles toward the center of the nest, creating a surface especially suitable for laying eggs. Females carefully inspect these structures before choosing a mate. If the nest is damaged by currents, the male immediately begins repairing it. This feat of engineering demonstrates that even very small animals can perform behaviors of astonishing complexity. Weddell seals can keep holes open in the ice throughout the winter. In Antarctica, Weddell seals live in an environment where the ocean remains covered by thick layers of ice for much of the year. To breathe, they depend on small holes that they keep open using their strong incisor teeth. They periodically return to these openings and scrape away the ice with repeated movements to prevent them from closing again. Thanks to this strategy, they can remain underwater for more than an hour and reach depths greater than 1,968 feet while searching for fish and squid beneath the ice. Their physiological adaptations allow them to store large amounts of oxygen in their blood and muscles while reducing their oxygen consumption during dives. These abilities make Weddell seals some of the marine mammals best adapted to one of the most extreme environments on the planet. Some giant clams obtain much of their energy from tiny algae living inside them. Giant clams from tropical reefs can exceed 3¼ feet in length and weigh several hundred pounds. Although they filter particles from the water like other mollusks, much of their energy comes from millions of microscopic algae living within their tissues. These algae perform photosynthesis using sunlight and produce nutrients that the clam uses to grow. In return, they receive a safe place to live and constant access to carbon dioxide and nitrogen-rich compounds. To support this process, the clams open their shells widely during the day, exposing their colorful mantles to sunlight. This symbiotic relationship allows them to reach extraordinary sizes and play an important role in the productivity of coral reefs. Some fish produce a mucus cocoon to sleep safely at night. Several species of parrotfish perform a curious routine before resting. Shortly before nightfall, they begin secreting a transparent substance that slowly surrounds their entire body until it forms a gelatinous sac. Once completely enclosed, they remain motionless inside this cocoon throughout the night. Researchers believe this covering helps conceal their scent from nocturnal predators such as moray eels and may also make it more difficult for small parasites to detect their presence. At dawn, the fish easily breaks through the covering and resumes its normal activities. For many years, this behavior went unnoticed because it can only be observed during nighttime dives. It is another example of the ingenious strategies marine animals have developed to survive while vulnerable during rest. Humpback whales create bubble nets to capture entire schools of fish. Humpback whales are known for their spectacular leaps and complex songs, but they also possess one of the most sophisticated cooperative hunting techniques in the ocean. When they find a school of fish, several individuals work together. One or more whales descend beneath the school while releasing columns of bubbles that form a large rising cylinder. The fish avoid crossing this bright barrier and become concentrated in an increasingly smaller space. At that moment, all the whales rise simultaneously with their mouths completely open, capturing thousands of fish at once. This behavior requires extraordinary coordination and, in some populations, is even accompanied by specific vocalizations that appear to synchronize the group's movements. It is one of the most impressive examples of cooperation among large marine mammals. Some squid can change the texture of their skin within seconds. In addition to changing color, certain squid species possess the ability to rapidly alter the surface of their skin. Through specialized muscular structures called papillae, they can transform completely smooth skin into a surface covered with bumps that imitate rocks, corals, or algae. This change occurs in only a few seconds and is combined with color variations produced by chromatophores and iridophores. The result is extremely convincing three-dimensional camouflage that makes it very difficult for predators to distinguish them from their surroundings. When the threat disappears, the papillae retract again, and the body returns to its usual appearance. This level of control over their appearance makes cephalopods some of the most advanced masters of camouflage known in the animal kingdom. The oceans contain isolated mountains called seamounts that function as oases of life. Thousands of underwater mountains rise from the ocean floor without reaching above the surface. These structures, known as seamounts, usually originate from volcanic activity and can reach several miles in height. When currents strike them, they carry nutrients from the depths toward shallower waters, encouraging the growth of plankton. As a result, these locations attract large concentrations of fish, sharks, turtles, seabirds, and marine mammals. Many migratory species use seamounts as resting and feeding points during their long journeys. Despite their ecological importance, many of these mountains remain unexplored, and each new expedition continues to discover species previously unknown to science that live exclusively in these isolated habitats. Some shrimp species live permanently inside marine sponges. Sponges not only filter enormous amounts of water, but also provide homes for numerous animals. Among them are certain species of small shrimp that spend nearly their entire lives inside the internal cavities of a sponge. There, they find protection from predators and a constant flow of food particles carried by the filtered water. In some cases, a pair remains inside the same sponge for years, reproducing without ever leaving it. When the young reach a certain size, they enter the ocean to search for a new home. This close relationship mainly benefits the shrimp, although some research suggests that they may also help keep the sponge's internal cavities clean by consuming accumulated organic debris. Sharks can replace thousands of teeth throughout their lives. Unlike humans, whose permanent teeth appear only once, sharks have several rows of teeth that are constantly being renewed. When one of the front teeth breaks or falls out while feeding, another quickly moves forward from the row behind it to take its place. Depending on the species, this process can be repeated every few weeks. Throughout its lifetime, a single shark may replace tens of thousands of teeth. This adaptation is especially useful for animals that capture tough prey or exert powerful biting forces. Thanks to this continuous renewal, they always maintain a functional set of teeth regardless of the wear caused by years of hunting. It is one of the most effective evolutionary strategies developed by large marine predators. Some species of sea cucumbers expel part of their internal organs to escape predators. When a predator attacks certain sea cucumbers, these animals use a defense that is as astonishing as it is effective. Through a powerful muscular contraction, they expel part of their internal organs through the rear end of their bodies. These sticky structures can entangle or distract the attacker, allowing the sea cucumber to slowly escape. Although this may seem like an irreversible loss, these animals possess an extraordinary regenerative ability and rebuild the expelled organs within a matter of weeks. Some species even release toxic substances along with these tissues to make their defense more effective. This mechanism represents one of the most unusual survival strategies in the ocean and demonstrates how far evolution can go to protect seemingly defenseless organisms. Extreme tides can completely transform the coastal landscape twice a day. In certain regions of the world, such as the Bay of Fundy in Canada, the difference between high and low tide can exceed 49 feet. This means that enormous stretches of the seafloor are exposed for several hours before being completely covered by the ocean again. At low tide, beaches, sandbars, caves, and rock formations appear, only to disappear once more when the water returns. Numerous species have evolved to take advantage of this constant cycle. Crabs, mollusks, starfish, and algae endure repeated periods of exposure to the air before becoming submerged again. This continuous movement of water also transports nutrients and supports high biological productivity, making these coastlines some of the most dynamic ecosystems on the planet. Some octopuses imitate the appearance and behavior of other marine animals to avoid being attacked. Among the mimic octopus's most extraordinary abilities is its capacity to visually transform itself into different species. It changes not only the color and pattern of its skin, but also the position of its arms and the way it moves. Depending on the danger it faces, it can take on the appearance of a venomous lionfish, a sea snake, a ray, or even a flatfish gliding along the bottom. Most surprisingly, it selects the most appropriate imitation according to the type of predator present. This combination of intelligence, muscular control, and camouflage makes the mimic octopus one of the best imitators in the animal kingdom and a spectacular example of evolutionary adaptation in the ocean. Hermit crabs form chains to exchange shells when they find a better one. For a hermit crab, finding a shell of the right size is a matter of survival. Because its abdomen is soft, it must shelter inside the empty shells of sea snails to protect itself from predators. Surprisingly, when an especially large shell appears, several individuals may gather around it and form an orderly line according to their size. When a crab large enough to occupy the new shell arrives, all the others switch shells almost simultaneously. The largest takes the newly discovered shell, the next takes the one that has just been vacated, and the process continues until each crab obtains a home better suited to its size. This behavior reduces competition and allows them to make the best possible use of a resource that is very scarce on the seafloor. Some jellyfish shelter small fish that find protection among their tentacles. Although the tentacles of many jellyfish are covered with stinging cells capable of immobilizing prey, certain juvenile fish have developed a surprising resistance to these stings. This allows them to live among the tentacles without being harmed. There, they find protection from much larger predators that avoid approaching the jellyfish's venom. While remaining hidden, the fish take advantage of scraps of food captured by their host and may even temporarily leave the shelter to feed on their own. As they grow, many species eventually leave the jellyfish and begin an independent life. This association demonstrates that even the most dangerous animals in the ocean can become safe shelters for other species that have evolved alongside them. Ocean sunfish produce more eggs than any other known vertebrate. The ocean sunfish, famous for its rounded body and enormous size, has another extraordinary characteristic related to reproduction. A single female can produce more than 300 million eggs during one breeding season, the highest number recorded among all known vertebrates. This impressive quantity compensates for the high mortality experienced by the larvae during their earliest stages of life. When they hatch, the tiny young measure only a fraction of an inch and look completely different from the adults. As they grow, they undergo profound transformations until they become some of the heaviest bony fish on the planet, capable of exceeding 4,400 pounds. Their reproductive strategy reflects the enormous challenge of surviving in the open ocean from the very first days of life. Sea squirts begin life as swimmers and end up as motionless animals. Sea squirts are small marine animals that usually live permanently attached to rocks, pilings, and reefs. However, their lives begin in a very different way. Their larvae swim freely using a tadpole-like tail and possess primitive structures related to the vertebrate nervous system. When they find a suitable place to attach themselves, they undergo an extraordinary transformation. They completely absorb the tail, reorganize much of their body, and lose many of the structures they used for movement. From that moment on, they remain motionless, filtering water for food for the rest of their lives. This radical change represents one of the most astonishing examples of metamorphosis in the ocean and has generated great interest among biologists studying the evolution of chordates. Some sharks use natural nurseries where their young remain protected during their early years. Many shark species do not leave their young completely exposed after birth. Females often travel to shallow bays, estuaries, or extensive seagrass meadows that function as natural nurseries. These areas provide abundant food while also making it difficult for large predators that might feed on young sharks to gain access. The young remain there for months or even several years before venturing into the open ocean. Scientists have discovered that some females repeatedly return to the same nurseries generation after generation. Protecting these habitats is essential for the conservation of numerous shark species because the loss of these areas can greatly reduce the reproductive success of entire populations. Penguin feathers function like a sophisticated waterproof thermal suit. Although they spend much of their lives swimming in waters near the freezing point, penguins retain their body heat through a combination of exceptional adaptations. Their feathers are far more numerous than those of most birds and overlap to form an extremely dense covering. They also produce special oils that keep the surface almost completely waterproof, preventing water from reaching the skin. Beneath this plumage, they have a thick layer of fat that acts as additional insulation. When they leave the water, they quickly shake off the droplets trapped among their feathers and retain a layer of warm air next to their bodies that further reduces heat loss. Thanks to this natural design, they can withstand some of the coldest conditions on the planet while continuing to hunt beneath the ocean. Some sea anemones can divide to form genetically identical individuals. Although many anemones reproduce through eggs and sperm, some species also use a completely different method. When conditions are favorable, the animal can slowly divide its body into two parts. Each half regenerates the missing tissues until it becomes a new, fully functional anemone. As a result, large colonies may consist of hundreds of genetically identical individuals. This strategy allows them to quickly occupy available space and increase their chances of surviving environmental changes. On some reefs, large areas covered with anemones actually belong to a single clonal lineage that has expanded through repeated divisions over many years. This type of reproduction demonstrates the extraordinary regenerative ability found in numerous marine invertebrates. Dolphins can recognize their own signature whistles even after many years of separation. Each dolphin develops a distinctive whistle during its youth that functions much like a personal name. This unique sound allows other members of the group to identify it even when they cannot see it. Studies conducted with wild populations have shown that dolphins remember these whistles for decades and respond with particular interest when they hear the calls of former companions, even after being separated for many years. This exceptional social memory is among the longest ever recorded in non-human animals. Maintaining stable bonds is especially important for species that live in complex groups, where cooperation makes it easier to find food, defend against predators, and care for their young. Coralline algae help build reefs that are much stronger than they appear. Although corals usually receive all the attention, some marine algae play an equally important role in reef formation. These algae incorporate calcium carbonate into their tissues, forming a hard surface that acts like natural cement. As they grow between coral colonies, they bind loose fragments together and strengthen the entire reef structure against waves and storms. Without this constant support, many reefs would be considerably more fragile and would erode more quickly. These algae also provide shelter for small invertebrates and serve as surfaces where numerous larvae find suitable places to settle. Their contribution often goes unnoticed, but it is essential to the stability of some of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. Walruses use their sensitive whiskers to find food buried beneath the sediment. The enormous walruses of the Arctic spend much of their time searching for mollusks and other invertebrates hidden beneath the seafloor. To locate them, they rely on hundreds of extremely sensitive whiskers called vibrissa. Each one is connected to numerous nerve endings capable of detecting tiny irregularities in the sand and mud. Once prey is located, the walrus uses powerful jets of water produced with its mouth to disturb the sediment and expose the mollusks. It then extracts them using its strong lips, while the shells are usually left behind on the bottom. Thanks to this combination of highly developed touch and physical strength, these marine giants can find food even when visibility is almost non-existent beneath the icy waters of the Arctic Ocean. Some fish use chemical signals to recognize members of their own group. In the ocean, sight is not always enough to identify other individuals, especially in murky water or at night. For this reason, many fish species also depend on smell to recognize members of their school. Each individual releases small amounts of chemical compounds into the water that contain information about its species and even its group. Through these signals, fish can remain together while swimming, locate their companions after becoming separated, and reduce the risk of mixing with other schools. In some cases, young fish learn the distinctive scent of their environment shortly after birth, which helps them later return to the same areas where their lives began. This sophisticated system of chemical communication demonstrates that much of the information circulating through the ocean remains completely invisible to humans. The feathers of seabirds can withstand thousands of dives without losing their waterproof qualities. Birds such as gannets, cormorants, and puffins spend much of their lives entering and leaving the water while searching for fish. To prevent their bodies from losing heat, they keep their feathers carefully waterproofed with oils produced by a gland located near the tail. Each day, they spend long periods spreading this oil across all their feathers with their beaks. In addition, the microscopic structure of the feathers traps a thin layer of air that provides thermal insulation during dives. Even after thousands of plunges, this system continues to function very effectively. Without this constant maintenance, the birds would quickly lose body heat and would have much greater difficulty surviving in cold marine environments. Some fish species form temporary alliances with octopuses to search for food. In certain tropical reefs, surprising partnerships have been observed between octopuses and different fish species. Both animals possess complementary abilities that increase their chances of finding prey hidden among rocks and corals. While the octopus inserts its long arms into narrow crevices that many fish cannot enter, its companions remain alert to catch any animals that try to escape. In return, the fish help the octopus by indicating possible hiding places for food through changes in direction or rapid movements around certain rocks. These collaborations usually last only as long as necessary to complete the search for food, after which each species continues on its way. This behavior demonstrates that cooperation between very different animals can arise when both sides receive clear benefits. Corals can recognize when an organism belongs to their own colony. Although they appear to be simple and motionless structures, corals possess highly effective mechanisms for distinguishing between their own tissues and those of others. When two branches from the same colony come into contact, they usually fuse without any problem, forming a larger structure. However, when contact occurs between different colonies, even of the same species, aggressive reactions often take place. Some corals develop special tentacles filled with stinging cells that they use to attack neighboring colonies and prevent them from invading their space. This competition largely determines how reefs grow and explains why certain species dominate particular areas while others are displaced. Despite their peaceful appearance, reefs contain intense competition for light and available space. Butterfly fish often form pairs that remain together for many years. Among the colorful inhabitants of tropical reefs, butterfly fish stand out for their bright patterns and graceful movements. In many species, a male and female establish a stable pair that can remain together for long periods. Both travel through the same territory each day, defend feeding areas together, and coordinate their movements almost as though they were synchronized. When an intruder appears, both actively participate in defending the part of the reef they consider their own. Researchers have found that these pairs maintain constant visual contact and use specific movements to coordinate with each other. The stability of these bonds improves vigilance against predators and supports reproduction, showing that long-term cooperation is also a highly effective strategy in marine ecosystems. Deep ocean currents can take centuries to complete a journey around the planet. Although many surface currents change relatively quickly because of the wind, deep waters move at much slower speeds. A mass of water that sinks near the polar regions may take several centuries to travel slowly through the ocean depths before rising back toward the surface in another part of the world. During this long journey, it carries oxygen, nutrients, and carbon to regions far from its point of origin. This slow movement forms a fundamental part of global ocean circulation and helps maintain the planet's climate balance. Understanding these routes is essential for predicting how the oceans will respond to global warming and other long-term environmental changes. Some cuttlefish can remember the exact location where they found food several days earlier. Cuttlefish possess one of the most developed nervous systems among invertebrates and have demonstrated surprising cognitive abilities. In experiments conducted by researchers, these animals were able to remember what type of food they had found in different locations and how much time had passed since they last consumed it. Thanks to this memory, they chose to return only when the food was likely to be available again, avoiding unnecessary travel. This ability requires combining information about location, the type of prey, and the passage of time, a skill long believed to be limited to certain vertebrates. These discoveries continue to expand our understanding of cephalopod intelligence and their complex lives in the ocean. Lobster larvae use ocean currents to cross enormous distances before reaching the seafloor. After emerging from their eggs, young lobsters look completely different from adults. For several months, they remain floating near the surface as part of the plankton, where ocean currents sometimes carry them hundreds or even thousands of miles. Only after reaching a certain stage of development do they descend toward the seafloor and begin taking on the characteristic form of a juvenile lobster. This long journey allows populations to exchange individuals between distant regions, promoting genetic diversity and the colonization of new habitats. However, it also means that variations in ocean currents can directly influence the future distribution of these important commercial species. Some marine sponges recycle enormous amounts of organic matter that is invisible to most animals. Ocean water contains an immense quantity of tiny dissolved organic particles that many organisms cannot use directly. Marine sponges act like true biological recycling plants by filtering hundreds of gallons of water each day and capturing some of this microscopic material. They later transform these compounds into tissue that can be consumed by other reef animals when small pieces of the sponge naturally break away. This process, known as the sponge loop, helps retain nutrients within the ecosystem instead of allowing them to be lost to deeper waters. Thanks to this constant recycling, tropical reefs can maintain high productivity even in waters that are relatively poor in nutrients. Male pipefish are the ones that carry the young during pregnancy. Pipefish and seahorses belong to a group of fish whose reproductive roles feature a very unusual characteristic. After mating, the female deposits the eggs into a specialized pouch located on the male's body. There, they remain protected while receiving oxygen and nutrients until they complete their development. During this period, the male carefully regulates the conditions inside the pouch to support the growth of the embryos. Finally, through powerful muscular contractions, he releases dozens or even hundreds of fully formed young into the water. This unique reproductive system makes the males directly responsible for pregnancy, one of the most extraordinary examples of parental care found in the ocean. Some sharks rest while continuing to swim because of the constant flow of water over their gills. Although many shark species can remain motionless on the bottom while actively pumping water through their gills, others depend entirely on movement to breathe. In these species, water must flow continuously over the gills to provide sufficient oxygen exchange. Scientists believe that some of these sharks alternate activity between different regions of the brain, allowing them to maintain a steady swimming pattern while partially reducing their level of activity. This behavior remains under investigation because sleeping underwater presents a very different challenge from the one faced by land animals. Thanks to these adaptations, they can travel great distances without interrupting the essential functions required for survival. Giant kelp forests reduce the force of waves before they reach the coast. When waves pass through a kelp forest, thousands of long fronds sway with the movement of the water and absorb some of its energy. This effect reduces the intensity with which waves reach the shore, helping prevent erosion and protecting beaches, cliffs, and other coastal ecosystems. These dense formations also provide shelter for an enormous number of fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and marine mammals. Sea otters, for example, often rest while holding onto the kelp to avoid being carried away by currents as they sleep. In this way, kelp forests not only support great biodiversity, but also act as natural barriers that soften the ocean's energy and protect the coastline from the constant impact of waves. Some electric rays produce shocks capable of immobilizing their prey. Long before humanity understood electricity, electric rays were already using it as a tool for hunting and defense. These fish possess specialized organs made up of thousands of modified cells called electrocytes. When all of them are activated simultaneously, they generate a powerful electrical discharge that can stun fish, crustaceans, and other nearby animals. Depending on the species, these discharges can reach several hundred volts for a brief moment. After immobilizing the prey, the ray can feed without difficulty. This system is also effective at deterring potential predators. The study of these electrical organs has contributed to the development of modern knowledge about the physiology of nerve impulses and the function of cells specialized in conducting electricity. Oyster reefs can filter hundreds of thousands of gallons of water each day. Before many populations were reduced by overfishing and pollution, enormous oyster reefs covered extensive coastal areas around the world. Each oyster constantly filters water to obtain food, trapping small organic particles and improving the clarity of the surrounding environment. When millions of individuals live together, the amount of water processed each day is extraordinary. This filtration supports the growth of aquatic plants by allowing more light to reach the bottom and helps maintain healthy coastal ecosystems. The reefs also provide shelter for juvenile fish, crabs, and numerous invertebrates. Today, various restoration programs seek to recover these ancient reefs because of the important ecological benefits they provide for biodiversity and water quality. Some fish completely change their appearance between day and night. While many species maintain a similar appearance throughout the day, others undergo surprising transformations when darkness arrives. Certain reef fish rapidly change the color of their skin before sleeping, adopting much duller shades or patterns completely different from those they display during the day. This change reduces the chance of being detected by nocturnal predators while they rest among crevices in the reef. In some cases, spots, stripes, or colors appear and then disappear again at dawn. These changes are controlled by specialized pigment cells that respond to both ambient light and the nervous system. To an inexperienced observer, the same fish might appear to be a different species depending on the time of day when it is seen. Right whales have enormous, unique callosities that make it possible to identify each individual. On the heads of right whales are thick, rough areas called callosities. These structures are made of hardened skin and are colonized by small crustaceans that give them a very distinctive light color. Interestingly, the arrangement of these callosities is different on every whale, functioning much like a fingerprint. Through photographs taken over decades, researchers can recognize specific individuals and track their movements, reproduction, and even their health without needing to capture them. This method has made it possible to study the lives of some whales across several generations and better understand their migration routes, contributing significantly to international efforts to protect these threatened species. Sea urchins help maintain the balance of reefs by feeding on algae. Although they often go unnoticed among the rocks, sea urchins play a fundamental role in many coastal ecosystems. Using a complex mouth structure known as Aristotle's lantern, they constantly scrape algae from rocky surfaces and reefs. This grazing prevents algae from completely covering corals and other stationary organisms, allowing them to continue receiving enough light and space to grow. When sea urchin populations decline dramatically, some areas can quickly become overrun by algae, disrupting the balance of the ecosystem. In contrast, an appropriate number of these animals helps maintain healthier and more diverse reefs, demonstrating how even seemingly simple species can exert an enormous influence on their entire environment. Some seabirds can sleep while flying over the ocean. The open ocean provides very few places to rest during long migrations. To solve this problem, certain seabirds, such as frigate birds, have developed an extraordinary ability. Recent research indicates that they can sleep for brief periods while continuing to glide at high altitudes by taking advantage of air currents. During these episodes, one part of the brain reduces its activity while the other remains alert enough to control flight and prevent accidents. These brief periods of sleep last only a few seconds or minutes, but they are enough to maintain performance during journeys that can continue for several days without landing. This adaptation allows them to travel enormous distances over the ocean without depending on islands or boats as places to rest. Deep-sea dragonfish produce red light that is invisible to most of their prey. In the darkest regions of the deep ocean, nearly all animals capable of producing light emit blue or green colors because these wavelengths travel better underwater. However, some dragonfish species have developed a completely different strategy. They can generate red light while also possessing eyes adapted to detect it. Because most deep-sea animals cannot perceive this color, the dragonfish uses this illumination as though it were carrying an invisible flashlight. This allows it to locate prey without easily revealing its own position. This extraordinary adaptation gives it an important advantage in one of the darkest and most competitive environments on the planet. Leopard seals are among the leading predators of Antarctica. Unlike other seals that feed mainly on fish or small invertebrates, the leopard seal has a much more varied diet and clearly predatory behavior. Its powerful jaws and long teeth allow it to capture fish, squid, other seals, and even penguins. Despite this, it can also filter small crustaceans called krill using specialized structures in its rear teeth. This combination of feeding strategies allows it to adapt easily to the availability of resources during different seasons of the year. As one of the major predators in the Antarctic ecosystem, it plays an important role in balancing the populations of numerous marine species, helping maintain the stability of one of the most extreme oceans in the world.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.